In this video, I'm going to talk to you about nothing, but an extremely important nothing. This is a video review for a projector screen from Nothing Projectors. And Nothing Projectors are a retailer of famous visual product brands like 4Movie, JMGO, AWOL Vision, and Dangbei. But they also make their own screens. And the projector screen, of course, it's massively influential to the picture quality that we'll get, but I think it's probably the part of a home theatre system that people feel less excited about or maybe less emotional towards. And I've been questioning why that might be. Because I think the projector screen is likely the best value for money part of a home theatre system. It probably outlasts multiple projectors. So if you're a home theatre projector system owner, you might upgrade your projector multiple times while keeping the same screen. So the screen becomes the better value for money product as part of that system. So it makes me think, should we spend more money on the projector screen knowing that we're going to keep it for a longer period of time? And I think that makes sense. But let me know how you feel towards that down below in the comment section. But while I'm saying we should spend more money, it also makes perfect sense to me to not spend more than we have to if we can get more for less. So let's talk about this screen. It is a 120-inch floor-rising ambient light rejection screen, which means you hit a button on a remote control and up she goes. And then you hit another button on the remote control and away she goes. And maybe if this was a long-term thing, I would have installed the screen and the UST projector into some furniture so that it all feels totally discreet and more homely. But as this is only a short-term review situation for me, I had to just set the screen up, as best I can, just sat there behind me in front of the hi-fi rack. So I apologise now for, up she comes, look, I'll stop her there. That is how responsive the system is. It's fantastic. So I apologise now for how scruffy a lot of this has looked, and I've had cables kind of running everywhere, but I kind of did the best I can. I used to have a motorised screen installed on the ceiling in this room, and it made perfect sense to me how that worked due to gravity. But how a screen rises from the floor and stays under tension is quite a special thing that's very easy to take for granted. But the mechanism that's used here must be extremely powerful, because this overall whole projector as a device is very large, it's very heavy. I think it weighs over 30 kilograms. So it's a hell of a lot of weight that's being lifted up under tension and held stiff and tight and taut throughout that whole process. If you look at the rear of the screen and see how it works with a dual support structure, this is still a very impressive thing to me to see working, and especially how quiet it is in operation. Something I thought about here is just how thick the backing material is to the screen. That is stopping any light getting through, which is exactly what we want. And I don't think it matters if the screen comes down from the ceiling or if it rises from the floor. I think it achieves the same goal, but the installation is of course different. I think it looks more cool rising up from the floor, but that is just me. But what having the screen on the floor allows for someone like me is for me to pull the screen out, use it for a period of time, have some really good fun with it, do some reviews as is essential for my job, but then I can store the screen, put it back in its box, and I can store it for the next time. That's something different, of course, if I was trying to install it on the ceiling. However, given the size of the screen, it's nearly the full width of this room, and it's heavy. Given the weight, it's not something that I think someone would want to do regularly. Most important is the screen's material, and Nothing call it their Black series, and that's what got me really excited. I thought the screen was going to be black, and I've never seen a black projector screen in the flesh, but the screen colour ended up being grey, which is not what I expected, but never mind. Nothing told me the screen is called their Black series because it's designed to help improve the contrast of the projector, which is an essential picture quality attribute, but it's definitely more essential in non-fully light controlled environments. And fully light controlled doesn't mean you can close the curtains to make it dark. It means the room is dark even when there is a lot of light in it, like a good commercial cinema, like an IMAX. And this is one of the benefits of an ALR or ambient light rejection screen. So this was the first important thing to test. How much contrast is there in the image when there is a lot of ambient light in the room? And messing around with my ceiling spotlights, there are 12 of them that I think are 50 watt equivalent LED daylight bulbs. That's a lot of light. When they are all on, you can see the screen does a pretty good job of keeping the contrast and colour in the image. It doesn't fully blow out like you will see from a typical white screen. Or definitely like how you've seen from projectors down the pub on a Sunday watching the football. And you can see even when the ceiling lights are turned off, there is still a lot of ambient light in my room, as the screen itself becomes a 120-inch light source, so a huge light source. But the image still has contrast and colour when the lights are on, but you can see when the lights are off, there is more contrast and colour. So the ambient light rejection aspect of this screen does work very well, but the image still looks by far the best in as dark room as you can get it, which is something to pay attention to. So if an ambient light rejection screen improves the picture's contrast, especially in rooms that are not fully light controlled, you might ask the question, why do we not see them in commercial cinemas? And that's a really interesting question. And I think it's because there are generally two main trade-offs with this type of projector screen. And the first one is the gain. And the screen gain is a rating of how much light is reflected back from the screen back to you. So essentially how much light is gained or lost from the projector's light output itself. And this Black Series screen from Nothing Projectors has a gain rating of 0.6. So we do lose light from our projector itself. So if you think about the situation of a commercial cinema, they have a huge screen and they're trying to create a bright image for a lot of people. So in that situation, it might make sense to have a higher gain of screen material. But in a domestic situation where I think most of the UST projectors you can buy these days have a lot of light output, most of them do. So this whole situation, this potential trade-off is not so important. And that's especially true with this projector screen, as I'll explain shortly. Now, the second trade-off of this type of screen is that they are not acoustically transparent, which means you cannot have your three front speakers, left, center, right, sat directly behind the screen, because the screen itself will massively affect the sound quality. And that's why you've seen me use the KEF LS50 speakers very wide apart either side of the screen, because you can't place them behind the screen as is suggested to be the optimal placement. There's another thing with acoustically transparent screens. I find that with them, you need to sit further away generally to get a better picture quality. So you can sit a bit closer to non-acoustically transparent or solid projector screen. So that means you can have a larger screen in a smaller room. So again, like, these are all decisions, personal choice decisions to make. Now, the bottom section, which is perforated, that is acoustically transparent. So you could have speakers behind the screen, but they would have to be lower down. So this all becomes choices, decisions that you as the system builder need to make for yourself. So let's talk picture quality. And this really is not easy for a screen, because you're seeing the projector picture quality as much as anything else. And I have spent several weeks watching movies while testing the Zudu UHD 8000 media player, using the Light Canon AWOL Vision 3500 Pro, which is a £6,000, give or take, RRP UST projector. Watching super bright, colourful movies like Lego Batman, the two Spider-Verse movies, Pacific Rim, and a number of others, I've been marvelling in just how much colour and colour impact and brightness impact and the outright overall clarity of the image. It's been absolutely fantastic. And this has all been very, very stand out for me about this screen. And I have noticed several other standout positive things and a couple that maybe are negative. The first standout positive has been the light uniformity. The light uniformity across the whole screen has been absolutely fantastic, with one exception of like a small area over on the right hand side, which I assume is more to do with just the screen tension than anything else. The light uniformity, especially across the middle, even with really high brightness scenes like from the Meg or from the Shallows or from the new Furiosa, that makes all the difference between you being able to just look through the screen as like a giant window onto the movie or TV or whatever it is, the content that's happening in front of you, rather than seeing a screen. Because You can see projector screen material. Again, it's to do with viewing distance. If you're sitting closer to a big screen, you can sometimes see the screen material when it's really bright. And that, of course, ruins the illusion. So like that light uniformity really makes a difference for relatively close viewing distances for big screens. And that's been definitely a standout thing for me as a positive. The second positive has been just the clarity of the images. It just looks really clear, and I think those two must go hand in hand. It really is a fantastically clear screen. But on the negative side, the black level, and I've noticed this more with the black bars top and bottom of the screen, they have seen raised just a little bit. But interestingly, the content quality doesn't seem to suffer. So while I know a slightly raised black floor is of course affecting the image to some degree, it's not so harmful to make things not have really good contrast and good black levels, because that's not the case here at all. But I could see it, so it was important to mention it. But overall, I have been super impressed by the images I have been seeing from this screen, and I've spent a crazy amount of hours in front of them, and it's been a real joy to watch so many movies. And I've done my best to show you some examples, but remember, what you are seeing is only a reflection of what it's like in real life. And of course, you never really know how good something is without doing some kind of comparison. And it's not easy to do comparisons with a product of this size and type, but I do have another 120-inch floor rising ALR screen here from AWOL Vision, their Cinematic Plus screen. At first, when you look at them, you cannot tell them apart. The main framework is identical. The remote controls are identical, and in action, they are identical. And this is not a bad thing, as the floor rising mechanism is excellent here for both. They are both very well built units, and I would go as far as to say they are built like tanks. So it comes down to the screen material difference, and I couldn't see a difference. They looked identical to me, both grey, both the same colour, so I was expecting the picture quality to be the same, and I would have just advised you to buy the cheaper one, because of course that makes sense, except they wasn't the same. There was a difference. Not an easy one to quantify so much, but there was definitely a difference. So what were the differences between the screen materials? Well, for me, the AWOL Vision's screen material seemed to hold on to its black level just that little bit better. So like the richness of a black, what a deeper black can do to a picture was evident there. And I would say that screen material seems to have more what I'm going to call micro contrast. This is a camera lens thing where each part of the image has a bit more richness to its black level, so it looks a bit more rounded and three-dimensional on the screen. And combined with that, there seemed to be more depth to the picture as well. Like you look through that big giant window onto the content, and it seems to go deeper away from you compared to the Nothing screen. So those were like the big standout differences. But at the same time, the image was not as crisp clear as from the Nothing screen. And I would go as far as to say it looked a little bit more gritty. But at the same time as looking a bit more gritty, it also had a bit more texture. And I'm thinking about people's faces or their skin. So it seemed to have a little bit more texture to it from the AWOL screen. Going back over to the Nothing screen, it seemed like there was a slightly higher black floor, as I mentioned. But at the same time, like the brightness impact, the color impact, like the HDR aspect of the Nothing screen had more wow factor straight away. And it also had like a clearer and a slightly better, more light uniformity across, especially mostly the middle of the screen. So like there was a noticeable, tangible, obvious, significant difference between these screens. And you think, well, you can probably just match them with some kind of calibration. And I tried my best to use the settings, picture settings, to match the images. And you could get them closer. As close as I could get them, there was still always that same difference. So while these are significant differences, they also feel more like nuanced differences because the colours were very, very similar, and there was a lot that was similar to the pictures as well. But being honest, I could be very happy with either screen. They both deliver an amazing image, but it made me wonder if one screen might work slightly better with a certain projector and the projector's design. And it made me think that the Nothing screen could combine fantastically well with the 4-movie theatre projectors, which wants to hold on to its blacks in favour of some highlights brightness. And that sounds like the perfect projector for the Nothing screen. So I wanted to put this to the test as best I could by testing the Nothing screen with a brand new UST projector that's still to be released that I have here to review, the HDMI Aura 2, which is by far the nicest styled UST projector I have seen, with its very fancy slide-off lid that resembles a soft-top car. Very cool, typical HDMI stuff. And after some picture settings tinkering, I think the image was again superb, with really nice colours, and I could see how the colours are very different from the HDMI compared to the AWOL. So overall then, testing a different projector, testing the Aura 2, I learned, I would say nothing new about the Nothing Black Series projector screen, other than, you know, it can deliver amazing images. It can deliver amazing images with different types of UST projectors at different price points. And that's what's probably going to be most crucial. But I definitely think, yeah, certain projectors will balance lovely here, like the 4 movies, definitely. But the AWOL, the Aura 2, I was able to get amazing images out of, you know, both of them. So it will come down to price. The floor-rising Nothing Black Series screen costs £1,478, which I think is really reasonable given what you are getting here. However, if you don't need the mechanical part, the screen on its own costs £780. So that's still a chunk of money, but a chunk of money less. And a fixed screen will definitely have some advantages over a floor-rising screen. But even the mechanical floor-rising screen price seems really reasonable to me when I consider I'll compare it to the AWOL Vision screen, which on Amazon at the moment is £2,400. So a lot more money. And yes, some people will see the value in spending that extra on getting the slightly deeper black floor. They'll value that, and they'll value the depth to the image that you get. But I know there'll be a lot of people that would still be really happy with the Nothing screen, including me. I think it's a fantastic screen with, you know, £700 or so still in your pocket, which is, you know, a huge amount of money that you could put towards other things. So it really is a case with the Nothing projector screen that is trying to offer a lot of performance here for the money, and it is offering a hell of a lot of screen performance. It's just a screen, right? It's just a screen, but the difference a good screen makes in your home is massive. So don't overlook it. Don't undervalue it, don't underappreciate it, and yeah, spend them extra money up the front because it will be worth it in the long run. And Nothing projector screen, it does a lot of things right and it does nothing wrong. Apart from maybe that name, I really don't understand that name, but you know, it is what it is. So I hope you've enjoyed this review. I hope you found it useful and helpful. If you enjoyed it, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to this channel for more.